Don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts or story in the comments, and subscribe to our latest stories. Before I start, tell me where you are watching me from. I wonder which cities and towns will join me in this memory that will follow me for years. My boss said he just wanted a little walk. That's how it all started. A simple suggestion on an ordinary Wednesday afternoon, after a long day of endless meetings, unanswered emails, and the kind of silence that fills an office when everyone's too tired to care anymore. I remember looking up from my desk, half expecting him to be joking. He wasn't. He was standing by the door, hands in his pockets, looking at me like he really meant it. I hesitated. It wasn't unusual for him to ask small favors or share a few minutes of casual talk after work, but that day felt different. Maybe it was the way the late sunlight caught his face through the blinds, or how his usually neat tie hung loosely around his neck. Something in his posture seemed softer, almost tired. So I nodded, grabbed my coat, and followed him outside. The office parking lot was almost empty. The air was cool, touched by that golden hour glow that made everything seem gentler. The city noises were faint, just distant cars, the echo of footsteps, and the occasional bird that hadn't yet realized it was too late to be singing. We started walking with no direction. He said he needed fresh air after a long day, and I agreed, though truthfully, I was curious. My boss wasn't the type to step away from work unless something was weighing on him. For years, I'd seen him handle chaos with calm precision. He never raised his voice, never lost his temper, but never really let anyone in either. We walked past a small park not far from the building. The leaves were beginning to turn orange and red, spinning softly in the breeze before settling on the pavement. He pointed at a bench near the edge of the lake and said, "Let's sit there for a minute." I didn't say much. I didn't need to. There was something peaceful about that silence, the kind that happens when two people simply share space without the need for words. But after a while, he exhaled deeply and said, "You know, I've been thinking a lot lately about what all this really means. The work, the hours, the goals we chase." His tone was different. There was no authority in it, no formality. Just quiet honesty. I smiled faintly. "You sound like someone who's tired of his own success." He laughed softly, the kind of laugh that hides a truth inside. "Maybe I am. Maybe success isn't what I thought it would be." He looked out over the water, where the reflection of the sunset shimmered like melting copper. I found myself watching him more closely than I intended to. His expression, thoughtful and far away, like he was searching for something that couldn't be put into words. Then, he turned to me and asked, "Do you ever feel like you've built a life that looks perfect from the outside, but somehow, it's not yours anymore?" That question hit me harder than I expected. Because yes, I did. I'd built a life around responsibilities, work, family, keeping things together. Somewhere along the way, I'd stopped noticing the seasons changing, stopped having those moments of stillness that make you feel alive. "I think," I said slowly, "we all reach that point eventually. When we realize we've been running so long we don't remember what we were chasing." He nodded, his eyes still on the water. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. There was only the sound of the wind brushing through the trees and the soft ripples on the lake. "I didn't bring you out here to talk about work," he finally said. "I just needed to remember that it's okay to stop sometimes. To breathe." I looked at him then, not as my boss, but as another person trying to make sense of his own story. It was strange how familiar that struggle felt. Maybe that's what made the moment feel so honest. We sat there until the streetlights came on, casting soft pools of light across the path. The world seemed smaller, quieter. He told me about the choices he regretted, not in detail, just enough to let me know he'd carried more than he showed. And I shared my own small truths, the things I'd buried under years of routine. It wasn't planned, it wasn't even particularly emotional, but it was real. When it was time to go, he stood and said, "Thanks for walking with me." It sounded simple, but there was more behind those words. Gratitude, maybe. Relief. A quiet understanding that sometimes two people meet halfway through their own chaos and find a bit of peace in it. As we walked back, I realized something I hadn't noticed before: how different the world feels when you slow down enough to actually see it. The office lights in the distance, the reflection of the moon on the windshield of his car, the smell of the night air, everything seemed sharper, more alive. At the door, he smiled faintly and said, "You know, I might start doing this more often. Just walking." I smiled back. Maybe I will too. He nodded once, and for a moment, we just stood there in comfortable silence. Then he got in his car, and I watched the headlights fade down the street. That night, I didn't go straight home. I walked for a while longer, through quiet streets and cool air, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time: light. Not because anything had changed, but because I had remembered that sometimes, the smallest moments, like a walk after work, can open doors we didn't even know were closed. When I finally reached home, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. My face looked the same, but my eyes, they carried something softer. Maybe understanding. Maybe peace. It's strange, isn't it? How a single sentence, "I just want a little walk," can change how you see everything. I still think about that day sometimes. Not because of what happened, but because of what didn't, because sometimes the most meaningful experiences aren't about grand gestures or deep confessions. They're about being seen, being heard, and realizing that even in the most ordinary moments, something inside us can quietly shift, and it did. For both of us, I think.